Ladies and gentlemen, back on the SuperMeet stage here in Amsterdam, our friend and your friend, Larry Jordan.
Thanks, Mike.
Right.
Thanks, Dan. It was 2 years ago in London that I stood on this stage of the SuperMeet and launched Final Cut Pro 10. And then I ducked. I need to make a disclaimer, and that is this presentation has not been approved, reviewed, sanctioned, looked at by Apple. I don't work for Apple. Apple hasn't paid me to be here. Mike and Dan asked me to do this presentation. So obviously all of your ticket money is not going to me either. My goal tonight is not to convince you to buy software, because whether you buy Final Cut 10 or you don't doesn't make any difference to me. I have a different goal. My goal is and has been and will continue to be to help you find and keep a job, to be able to meet the needs of your clients, to be able to meet the needs of the jobs that you have, but I'm focused on getting you guys work and helping you keep those jobs and keep covering and keep doing new projects. I don't care what software you use. Adobe Premiere is world-class. Avid Media Composer is world-class. Smoke is world-class. We have never had such a collection of incredibly great software at one time. I don't care what you buy. It doesn't make any difference. As I was thinking about this speech, I realized that it needs to be more than just a demo. I've got a great demo. You're going to love the demo, but I've got a couple of philosophical thoughts that I want to share with you first. The first is we need to redefine who's a professional. Traditionally, somebody working for one of the big 6 studios in Hollywood or Bollywood or the BBC or major networks were considered professionals, but that's no longer the case. A professional is someone who expects to get paid for doing their work. A hobbyist doesn't expect to get paid. A professional gets paid because they deliver their projects on deadline, on budget, and meet or exceed the expectations of the client in terms of quality. But think about that for just a second. They meet the job for its deadline first, for its budget second, and quality is third. Now, that's not the way we think, except think about this. When was the last time that you missed a deadline or missed a budget for a client and they came back and said, "Here, let me hire you again"? It'll never happen. Everything revolves around first, meeting the deadline, second, meeting the budget, and then third, providing the quality that it meets or exceeds the client's expectations. And when it comes to getting paid, all we have to sell is our time and, to a lesser degree, our talent. Most of us are working freelance. Most of us are working on a fixed-rate job. If I can bid a job and say it's going to take 2 weeks and I get that job done in 1 week, I've just doubled my pay. If I bid a job at 2 weeks and it takes me 4 weeks, I've lost 2 weeks of being able to earn a salary. Efficiency is core to everything that we do. It's wonderful to tell a story, but telling a story and missing the deadline misses the point. It means we miss the paycheck. Anything that we can do that saves us time benefits us. When you think about it, there's really only one reason to buy any piece of software. It needs to enable you to complete a job faster. It needs to enable you to complete a job cheaper. It needs to be able to make that job better. It needs to make that job more easy. If it isn't better, faster, cheaper, easier, there's no reason, I don't care who makes it, for any of us to lay down any money and buy software. So the question is any software, much less Final Cut 10, cheaper, faster, better, easier? Now, if we're buying games for recreation, we waste that money on an hourly basis. But Final Cut isn't game software. Premiere isn't game software. It's the software that builds the foundation of the business that we have now and we expect to grow into the future. We can't play games with software that runs our business. We've all engaged in the religious wars of which is the best software, Avid or Adobe or Apple. An Autodesk sort of squeaking in from the side corners. It's a wonderful game to play. I've played it myself. But really, those religious wars are good for starting bar fights at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What we really want is we want the ability to know that whatever software we're using is going to be something we can rely on because that's how we meet the salaries, that's how we pay the rent, that's how we run the business, that's how we meet the deadlines, that's how we stay under budget, that's how we stay in business. Is Final Cut 10 ready for professional use? Well, as I thought about it, I realized that the answer really has three different elements associated with it. One is references. Second is personal. Third is technical. Now, when it comes to references, who's using Final Cut and making money at it? That's a rhetorical question. You can avoid standing on your chair and shouting me. The personal is how do we cope with change? And the technical is, does Final Cut 10 do what I need it to do? Which is not the same question as, does Final Cut 10 work the way I'm used to working? Far too often we start to judge something based upon whether it enables us to do what we've been doing for the last 15 years without realizing that what we've been doing for the last 15 years is taking too much time. We need to be more efficient. We need to be faster. If it's references that you want, half this room is using Final Cut. Let's just assume 50% of those people are dilettantes. Hundreds of people are in this room alone are using Final Cut on a regular basis. But the task that I'm charged with is it ready for professional use? So I did some phone calls and talked to some people. I talked with two that wanted to remain anonymous, and a couple others I'm going to share with you. Sam Mestman is the chief workflow architect for a company called LumaForge in Hollywood. He currently is on location on a film, has a $100 million budget. It starts shooting this week. It's for one of the big 6 studios in Hollywood. They can't yet announce the name of the film, probably because they haven't figured out what it is, which wouldn't be a first. They spent 6 months testing all the available editing software, and after 6 months of testing and incredible resistance from the studio, they decided to go with Final Cut 10. And the reason is they could do stuff faster with it than they could do with anything else. And I'll show part of that in the demo in just a minute. Feature films are good. $100 million films are good. It's a little bit out of my price range, but I like talking to people like this. I also spoke to the editor of the film. He wanted to remain anonymous, but he described for me in detail the testing they went through and why they decided to work with Final Cut because of the utilities that are available for it. The other was NBC Universal, based out of New York City. The gentleman I talked to is Mike Fernandez. He's the post-production manager. He runs an in-house edit group, 24 edit stations, was Final Cut 7. They've all converted to Final Cut 10 over the summer. The show they produce is George to the Rescue. I had a lot of fun talking with Mike because his job, similar to mine, was training his editors to work with Final Cut 7. There's plenty of references. If you're not converted to Final Cut by now, it's not because it isn't being used in small, medium, and large budget projects. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that for people that are trying to decide whether Final Cut 10 makes sense for them is the first reaction I had when Apple showed Final Cut to me. I had the pleasure of being in Cupertino when they rolled out Final Cut to a select group of people to give us sort of a preview what was happening about, 6 weeks before it was launched. And when that screen flashed up for the first time and I saw it, I said to myself, I am not smart enough to know how to run this application. It was completely overwhelming. And it made me think, as I was getting ready for this speech, that it's a situation that all of us confront, whether we're switching to Final Cut 10 or whether you want to move to Smoke or whether you want to move to Premiere CC. Every single one of us hates change. I would love to say I adopt change with open arms. I'm dragged kicking and screaming against my will into the new subject. I just want everything to stay the same. I just want to just one week, not have anything change for a week. Especially because the change affects how I earn a living, how I bill, how I work, how I edit. I was watching probably the smartest man I've met is Michael Cioni. He's the CEO of Light Iron. And he had a great quote. He said, behavioral changes are more important than technical ones. And if I hear one comment coming back in the 300 emails that I get a day, behavioral changes are at the heart of it. Why did Apple have to change this? Why couldn't they have left everything the same? As Mike Fernandez, member NBC Universal, George to the rescue. He said, the biggest element in training my staff on how to run Final Cut 10 was not the technology, it was the fear of learning new technology. The fear of learning new technology. Reminded me of Franklin Roosevelt in his first inaugural address, 1933, when the United States was in the heart of the Great Depression. Millions of Americans were out of work. 30% of America was unemployed. And he was elected to be president to fix this problem. In the third paragraph of his inaugural address, he said something that's stayed with us ever since. He said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Fear paralyzes us. The fear that I'm not smart enough to learn the application. The fear that this is going to be beyond me. The fear that if I don't learn it, I lose my business. It's a paralyzing fear. Of course you don't want to change. Dragged, kicking and screaming into the modern age when it works fine now, it ain't broke. I hear the objections. Apple wounded me with the launch of Final Cut 10. Yeah, they wounded a lot of people. I'd think that launch is the worst in Apple's history, with the possible exception of Mobile Me. They screwed up the launch. They've told me after the fact they screwed up the launch. But the launch was out. You can't go back and relaunch a product. You got to live with it. What have they done since? In the 2 years and 2 months since Final Cut 10 was released, they have updated the application 9 times, and they've announced a 10th is coming soon. Nobody works that fast. Apple has never worked that fast on any of their other applications. You've never had that speed of upgrade, not even with operating systems, as they've had with Final Cut 10. Another objection I hear is why can't everything stay the same? Why couldn't they just take Final Cut 7 and drop in a little bit of 64-bit support and let's just make it dual processor aware and take advantage of all the GPUs that are out there and put a Final Cut 7a on it it doesn't work that way. It's like putting lipstick on a caterpillar. This is a good one. You'll like this one. I've been trained in caterpillar management. I can breed caterpillars. I can watch those caterpillars crawl along the stick with the best of them, and I can herd caterpillars, and the caterpillars know where they're going. But isn't it even cooler if we wait and let the caterpillar turn into a butterfly? And all of a sudden, all that untapped power that was latent inside the caterpillar is released for all of us to see. You can't get butterflies unless you come out of a caterpillar. We got to let things grow. They got to expand on their own. Well, why can't we just have one editing tool? Just one. Let's just pick one. We're going to standardize on that one. I don't know about you, but recently I had a carpenter remodel part of my house. It was basically a direct line to my bank account. My bank account went to the carpenter, but nonetheless, remodeling was done. And when he walked in with that toolkit, he didn't have one hammer. He didn't have one screwdriver. That man walked in with a chest full of tools and used every single one of them as he's pounding and doing stuff to create the product that we want. There is no single tool, not one hammer that can pound in screws, not one screwdriver that's going to remove a nail. You got to have multiple tools. We're no longer in a multi-tool environment. What you want is the ability of all the tools to work together. So the last complaint that I hear is, why doesn't Apple build all these tools into one package? I'm reminded of the car industry. If you've ever walked into an auto parts store and looked at all the different elements that were there, all the different things that you could add to your car, if every car manufacturer built every single possible option that was available for your car into a single car, one, it would never get done, and two, I couldn't afford to buy it when it was complete. It has too much stuff. We are in an industry which defines itself as change. We are competing with younger folks who have no knowledge of the traditional way of doing things. We have to accept that change is the inevitable point. We have to accept that change is the inevitable product of telling stories with pictures. Camera technology evolves, storage technology evolves, output technology evolves. It's constantly evolving. We are not yet through the full conversion from film to digital. As we continue in that unfolding process of discovering how digital impacts our lives in a tapeless environment, the tools that we use must change. And we have to get ready for that. Now, if you're a hobbyist, use whatever tool you want. Final Cut 5 is still being used to this day in Hollywood. I know for a fact network shows are being successfully edited on Avid Media Composer 3, which hasn't been updated since the time of the Great Flood. But if we're a professional, coping with change has got to be built into our DNA. You don't necessarily have to like it, but we have to expect it. We have to plan for it. Which gets me to my last philosophical thought before I start the demos, which is there are technical issues. Remember, are there references? Yes, there's lots. How are we personally coping with change? That is different for each one of us. Some deal with change more easily, others less so. But the third is technical. Don't get trapped in the search for the perfect. I want to buy a new hard disk, so I go on the web and I'm looking for a new hard disk. What's the perfect hard disk? Well, is the perfect hard disk all SSD, or is it all spinning media? Is the perfect hard disk 8 megabytes or 8 gigabytes or 8 terabytes or 8 petabytes or whatever size it is this week? Or is the perfect hard disk out of FireWire? I could get lost in perfect. I need a hard disk. In a year and a half, it's going to be out of date. I don't care what I buy. As soon as I start looking for the perfect, I lose sight of the fact that I'm spending all of my time obsessing about buying a stupid hard disk, which is going to fill up in a day and a half anyway, and I got to get another hard disk to copy all that stuff to. The perfect gets in the way of us getting our job done. Same thing with software. All software has flaws. They try to hide them. That's what marketing's job is. They try to fix them. That's what engineering's job is. We try to find them. That's what our job is. But there's always flaws in software. It improves. You make noise, they improve it faster. So let me show you how things have improved. Let's go to a demo. My screen. One of the big mistakes Apple made at the launch of Final Cut 10 was the fact that they had no way to get stuff out of Final Cut 7. This was not smart. Fortunately, a company that has extremely smart people associated with it came up with a way. And so the first of the 5 demos I'm going to show you today, 6 and a half and a quarter. First, shows how to get stuff out of Final Cut 7 into Final Cut 10 and show you what you gain, show you what you lose, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to slides, a program that's called 7 to 10. It's published by Intelligent Assistance. You can find more information at intelligentassistance.com. That needs to be written on your wrist. It's available in the Mac App Store. It costs $10. What it does is it converts projects and media exported from Final Cut Pro 7 into files that can be imported into Final Cut Pro 10, and if you have not yet purchased this, I don't care if you don't think you're going to need it, you need to buy it. Because what this allows you to do is every project that's in Final Cut 7 can move up. What you need to know about this product is that you must be able to open your Final Cut 7 project in Final Cut 7 in order to export it as an XML file. Nothing reads a Final Cut 7 file. Nothing. The way we get our Final Cut 7 projects anywhere is they have to be exported as an XML file. Media, edits, transitions, and audio settings generally transfer with no problem. Effects, including color correction and clip retiming, generally do not transfer. So you need to think of this as a way of transferring your edit, but not your finished look. If I were to take Automatic Duck and move Final Cut 7 to Avid, I'd have the same limitations. If I take Final Cut 7's XML, move it to Premiere, I have the same limitations. Your media is safe, your edits are safe, your transition is safe, your audio levels are safe, all your timing, that is to say where the clips occur, is safe, but you're going to lose your effects. Keep in mind also that all files open as an event, with the project contained inside the event as a compound clip. Let's switch back to me and let me show you how this works. I've got this project. It has 3 video tracks with it. I've got Dr. Vint Cerf as a B-roll clip. I've got, let's see, some Pond 5 footage with Earth and space. I've got a text clip that says interplanetary internet. I've got talking heads. I've got sound effects. I've got whooshes because it's the space thingy. I've got opening music. I've got bridge music. So I've got 11 tracks of audio. I've got 3 tracks of video. You go to the browser. Select the project you want to select. You can export out of the timeline. Yes, you can, but I found it to be faster and more reliable by selecting the sequence inside the browser and exporting from the browser. Once you've selected the sequence, go up to File, go down to Export, select XML. The default setting is generally correct. You always want the highest number. If you only want to export the clips contained in this project, you do not check this checkbox. If you want to export all the clips that are in the browser, you do check this checkbox. Because I'm just migrating what's in the sequence, I leave this unchecked. The bottom checkbox should always be checked. I have no idea why Apple put it there. I have not found a single reason in 3,500 years of teaching Final Cut 7 to uncheck this, leave it alone. Once you've got that set, click OK, and we're going to call this Surf in Space Export. And you could call it anything you want. I'm going to just save it to the desktop. Normally, I would save it to the second drive. By the way, it took exactly 1 nanosecond to export. It's done. And it's now on the desktop. There's Surf in Space. 7 to 10 is a standalone application. It runs as a utility by itself, does not need to be running inside another application. It says, show me the XML file. Happens to be on the desktop, Surf in Space Export, click Open. It now has translated that file. You could send it to Final Cut Pro 10. You could. I tend to prefer saving it as an XML file. And I'm going to save that as an XML file. And we're going to use Surf in Space XM, 7 to 10. And save it to the desktop. Why? Because as soon as this demo was done, it's getting trashed, and now it's been saved. The actual conversion process, even if you're long-winded and explaining it to someone that's a slow listener, is going to take you 2.5 seconds. Now, let's fire up Final Cut 10, and let's just see what happens when you bring this in. I'm running 10.0.9. Remind me, by the way, I have gossip on the next version. But not now, because... So what we're going to do here is I'm going to select the drive, Go up to File. Notice that I did not, repeat, not create a new project. It's going to do that automatically. Go up to the File menu, go down to Import, and notice it says XML. You import the XML file. It says, where is it? So I wander over to the desktop, and there's the XML file. I click Import, and it goes through, and it imports that file, creating its own project right there. There's all the clips inside Dr. Surf's thing. And if I click on this keyword, there's the compound clip. The compound clip has got the graphics and the title, and if I just double click it to open it up, this is a compound clip. It's not a project. The way you convert it into a project is you select all the clips, Command-C, copy it, go over to the project library, click the plus key because you know that by hand. We're going to call this new project, click OK, copy, paste, done. Okay, so what, 8 seconds tops to move it from a compound clip? The world is not going to end as you do this conversion. Now, there is a couple of traps here. Notice that the text, Interplanetary Internet, was formatted up here, but it loses the format because the formatting engine for Final Cut 10 and Final Cut 7 are not the same. What you typed, if I grab it and drag it, that which you typed is the same. The content is not lost. The formatting is. Notice that we've got the transitions, we've got our audio levels are there, but if I had color correction, and I don't, and if I had special effects, I'd have to go back and redo that. There is a little bit of cleanup that I did. I decided to clean up the text to make it look prettier, so this is what we're going to be working with. It's the exact same thing, except I've converted it into a Final Cut 7 project. The time it took to convert this was, well, I would spend a lot of time giggling at my old edits, so there's about 15 minutes for giggling and about 5 minutes for cleaning up. I had to get a cup of tea. All right, so maybe a half hour to get this thing cleaned up, but not a lot of time. So we've now moved our Final Cut 7 project from Final Cut 7 to Final Cut 10. The next thing that I want to do is go back to the slides. This is amazing. It's called Sync and Link 10. What it does is it syncs double system sound. Now, if I'll do this, there's too many things going on at once. It's published by Intelligent Assistance. Again, intelligentassistance.com, available in the Mac App Store. It's $199.99. I'm going to talk about who needs it and who doesn't in just a second. What it does is it batch processes dual system audio and video files which contain matching time code. It's much faster than syncing clips manually. Let me illustrate. Come back to me. Change the slide. Give them a chance to see that. Go back here. That's the one. Chris, did they see that one already? Okay. What you need to know is that audio files must be recorded with timecode jam sync to video. This rules out recording double system sound with an H1N or a Marantz 661 PMD or an H4N because none of those support the import of timecode. Systems such as sound devices 702T or 744T or the 788T that record timecode must be used for this to work. It synchronizes based on timecode, which means that if you're doing a $5,000 independent film, you're not going to want to use Sync and Link because you're not going to be able to get the gear that you need. But let's say you're doing a feature film, and let's say that feature film has a $50 million budget. You're not going to be using an H1N to do your audio recording on. You're going to record it on gear that jam syncs time codes. You've got time code throughout the entire plant. You make your whole life a lot easier. So what we do is we import the files to be processed into an event. You grab all your audio, dump it into an event. Grab all the video, dump it into the event. Then, which is what I've got here, switch back, Chris. I've got a double system clip. Audio, I need to hear audio off computer. If I listen to this clip right here, I play it, listen very carefully. Now, you didn't hear anything. That's because the clip is silent, but it has time code. If I listen to this clip,
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
So the first 3 beats are here. The second 3,
4, 5, 6.
It breaks your heart, doesn't it? Brings tears to your eyes. Listen to this. The drama. The drama in that was, well, I digress. Anyway, we select the event and we go up to the File menu, go down to Export XML. XML is the secret sauce that makes all this possible. I'm going to call this sound export, because otherwise I'll never find it, and click Save, hide Final Cut, and go to an application called Sync and Link 10. open it up. It says, where's the XML file? Happens to be on my desktop, and it's called Sound Export. I click that, and it goes through and it found 1 video clip and 2 audio clips. It can synchronize the name based upon the video, the audio clip, or both. It can add the video metadata contained in any of these. Now here's a cool secret. If you say no trim, which is the default setting, if the audio is this long and the video is this long, you end up with a clip where the audio is this long and the video is this long. Well, generally, I want to have my audio and video start and stop at the same point. So you switch that from the default to trim clips, and now the video and the audio will be the same length. You can adjust audio by frames if you've got a frame offset, and you can make some other stuff like QuickTime reference movies. I'm going to leave this off because it's sexier if you don't see it that way. But you could leave it on if it disappoints you. We're going to tear it off. Say sync clips. Now, do you want to save the sync report or do you want to save the XML file? It moves out of Final Cut via XML. It moves back to Final Cut with XML. So I save the XML. So I say sound for FCP X. And there's no magic to the names because even I won't remember them in another 5 minutes. Switch back to Final Cut. And I go up to File, Import, XML. Notice several things. One, you always select the hard drive you want the event to be stored on. So if you want to store an event to a particular drive, select it before you create the event. If you want an XML file that creates events to be stored on a hard drive, select the hard drive. Don't create the event. Say XML, it says, where is it? There's our sound for Final Cut. Click Import. Done. Go to it. Right here, double system. It flags with a sync keyword all of my synced clips. And if we listen to the audio,
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I just did that with 1 clip. I could just as easily, with exactly the same number of mouse clicks, do that with 500 clips. Remember that motion picture I was talking about, which I can't talk about because they haven't picked the name yet. They had their first dailies 2 days ago. They had 500 shots. Of those 500 shots, they had 500 double system. They had 1,000 clips that came in all at the same time. They were synced in 20 minutes. 20 minutes. The avid people were working on it for a week and a half. 20 minutes. It's automatic. You bring it in, you export it as an XML, run it through SyncLink, you bring it back. Changes the whole concept to dailies. If I can get sync sound back the same day, like in half an hour, I can be editing on set and give the director a rough cut before he finishes the coverage, to have him figure out what the coverage is. Let's go back to the slides. Here's another cool one. I don't know about you, but the directors that I work with can never quite make up their mind in terms of how they want the shot edited, but they especially can't make up their mind after it's been sent to audio post. So the director comes in, you've just delivered, about 3 days ago, you just delivered this 90-minute incredible opus to sound. It's got 800 bajillion audio tracks, 700,000 clips for audio, and the director says, well, let's just move our third shot in 5 frames. I'm sure that the audio guys won't mind at all, in spite of the fact you just totally screwed their entire edit. This is brand new. It shipped 10 days ago. It's called Change List 10. Intelligent assistants, which should not surprise you at this point, are at the leading edge of all XML work. It's available in the Mac App Store. It's $199.99, and if you don't need it, you don't need it. But if you need it, you're going to kill for it. And it's brand new. It compares clips on the primary storyline between 2 Final Cut 10 projects and creates a text file or a PDF of the changes between them. Now, it only affects clips on the primary storyline. Its principal purpose is to keep audio post in sync with video post. And what you need to know about this is that this only displays changes made to the primary storyline. This also creates a change pull list for additions and a change discard list for deletions. You export both projects as an XML file. And the change list can be a tab-delimited thing, which you can load into Excel or Numbers, or as a PDF. So let's start Change List X. It's a standalone application. It's right here. And I have a sample file. I'm going to click on Open the first XML, go to my desktop here, SuperMeet Assets, change list. Okay, and here's my two XML files. I'm going to select version 1, click open. I'm going to select version 2, click open. And you could change this if you want. I'm going to do this as a PDF document just because it looks prettier. I'm going to say save the change list. We'll take the default, give that a name. Notice none of this stuff has taken very long. Look at this. There's our document. Change list, when it was, what's compared, what the original length is, what the new length is, and a change list is a cookbook. You start at event number 1 and you move the shot to 7. You move the shot to 8. This is what you hand to your audio post guys. They're used to getting it since the beginning of time. They go through here and they make every single change that exactly to the frame replicates what you've just done. And notice how much non-typing I've had to do. Notice how long it took. For those of you that are trying to keep audio post in sync with video post, this can all of a sudden give you a whole day back. It is magnificent. But the cool stuff is still to come. If we go back to Final Cut, and this time I'm going to export this particular file as an XML file, and we're going to call this Dr. Surf and Space. Okay, we'll do that. Click Save. All right, now let's go back to the slides. The last time anybody updated the EDL spec was before all of us in this room were born. It stopped being developed, it stopped being supported in about the mid-1990s, which means that we're using EDLs to this very day in every single application, even though nobody supports it. So if you need to create EDLs for any reason, you want to consider a utility called EDLX. EDLX is published by XML Workflow Tools. It's available at the Mac App Store, $99. And what it does is it creates CMX 3600 EDL files from a Final Cut 10 XML file. Source names and paths can be edited. And what you need to know is that this automatically creates as many EDLs as you need to support the clips and layers in your project, which is useful when you're bringing files into DaVinci Resolve or Autodesk Smoke. Supports CMX 3600, which is the most flexible of all the EDL formats. Variable speed clips cannot be nested, and both the derived EDLs and the XML file can be saved into the same file. Watch this. I'm going to start EDLX. It says we'll open the XML, so I'm going to go here, and let's go find Dr. Surf right up there. Click Open. That fast, the EDLs were created. Not just one set of EDLs. Remember I had 11 tracks of audio, EDLs only support 4. Remember I had 3 tracks of video, EDLs only support 2. It's smart enough to know how many clips on how many layers and to create an EDL to support every single clip on every single layer without me having to do any parsing of any sort. It's done that quickly. And when you save this as an EDL, it's going to take 5 EDL documents it's done automatically. Half a second for every layer. None of this breaking clips apart like we had to do in the past. Much easier, much faster. But then watch this. Let's go to the next slide. This is a sleeper. I don't know about you, but when I import stuff, sometimes I copy it to the event folder, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I remember where I put it, sometimes I don't. Marker, which is published by XML Workflow Tools, also available, which is xml.biz, XMIL Workflow Tools, which is in xmil.biz, available in the Mac App Store for $19. What it does is it displays all clips used or referenced by a Final Cut project in the Finder and allows you to change clip labels or move clips around. Apple recommends that you copy media into the event folder. If you, like me, feel we're too smart to do that, we'll just leave the files where they are and reference them. Then before you go to sleep tonight, you need to buy this application. This is the perfect tool if you've got files scattered all over creation and need to find or label them. Final Cut 10 functions such as consolidation, duplicate, relink, merge, and move don't do any of the tasks that Marker does. Keep in mind, however, that if you move the location of source clips, you'll need to relink them inside Final Cut, which Final Cut makes easy. So here's a couple cool things. First, let's go to Final Cut. Go up to the second drive, and I'm going to create a new event. Now, this is not part of Marker. I realized I forgot to do it earlier. So we're going to call this event SuperMeet, because that's where we are. Anyway, I want to import this. Command I to open up the import dialog. Except, as long as I'm importing, I want to show you something. If I went over to my second drive, I'm really, really focused on getting organized. Organization is my life because I've been totally hosed by when I wasn't organized before. So I've created a folder called Source Media. And inside Source Media, this is all the media that I use for all the training that I do, I've created 2 folders. A folder called Pond 5 Clips, because they have good media and I like them and I use them a lot. And I've got 5 folders in here: animals, dance, landscape, people, and space. And I've got another folder called Still Images, and I've gathered all of my still images together, and I've got tons and tons of still images, and I got tons and tons of Pond 5 clips, and I've got them all gathered together. There's no magic to the names. Watch what happens. If I go up to Final Cut and I say, let's just import from the second drive, let's go to where my source media is stored, and I'm going to select the Pond 5 folder right here. I'll hold the Command key down and I'll select the still image folder right there and make sure Pond 5 is still selected. When I import the selected, I want to share with you how I import stuff. I always check the top 2. I always copy events to the Final Cut Events folder. That way I know that I'm working with a copy, not destroying my master. This is going to save you a ton of time. I always check this. I'm going to show you why in 5 seconds. I will also create optimized media. It's a long speech, but my recommendation is always check the top 3, always check the bottom 3, and never check anything in the middle, because it takes forever. And then a week and a half. It's easier to do later, so I check the top 3, I check the bottom 3. Simply because I want to move quickly tonight and because I want to keep the background processes to a limit, I'm not going to check optimized media, and I'll check copy just because it's there. Watch this. I click import, switch back out. That quickly, the files are brought back in, and look at what happens. There we go. Close the window, and it's created the event SuperMeet, but it's automatically keyworded every single image in there. So I want to see my animals, click on animals. I want to see my dance, the dance is there. None of this typing of metadata. The metadata, which is a word that I loathe, is already assigned because I put them in the folders in the first place. So take all of your day 1 shoots or take all of your scene 36 shoots, put them in a folder ahead of time, bring them in, they're automatically keyworded. You say, well, where did I put that shot? Right here. Oh, there's my shot. Why waste time keyboarding metadata after the fact when the keyboarding can be done ahead of time? Then, this is the really cool part. See this itty-bitty little magnifying glass? It is not a nick on your monitor. It's actually an icon. And when you click it, it opens up a dialog box that allows you to find stuff. Now you could type in, for instance, the word barn, and in real time, all the barn clips will automatically show. Oh, just close the window and close the window. This little X in a circle resets it. If you go to SuperMeet and you type this and you say, give me all the barn clips, we'll get there, it automatically in real time shows all the barn clips. But forget that. Go up to this pop-up menu and look at what we've got here. A keyword search. When I select keywords, I can say, show me all the keywords that are animals and landscape, but nothing else. So you just uncheck the keyword you don't want to find. And that quickly, in real time, all of my animals and all of my landscapes are displayed. Show me all the clips that have the girl with the red dress. Show me all my exteriors. Show me all of my B-roll. Well, what happens if I take a clip, for instance here, let's just uncheck it. You reset this by going and clicking the reset button. I'm going to take this one shot right here real quick. We'll call this Village Barn. You want to know what keywords are assigned to it? Either type the key icon or just Command K, and notice it says landscape. I also want it to be nature. So I assign the nature, there it goes, animating back. I now want to find all the clips that are in landscape or nature. Well, that's there. But if I change this from include any, which means either or, to include all, it shows me only those clips which are in both landscape and nature. And the reason it's not working is I unchecked it, so there it is. So you have what's called a logical and or a logical or. If you want to see all the clips that are either landscape or nature, include any. You want to see the clips that are both landscape and nature, include all, and we went down to that one clip that met both. Now, why do you ask this, you may wonder? Well, the reason is this. I'm going to create, let's just clear this so I see all of my clips. I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to go up to SuperMeet. I'm going to clear the project, thank you. And I want to take, this shot, and I want to take that shot, and I want to take this shot, and I want to take that shot, and I want to take this shot, and I want to take that shot, and I want to take this shot, and we'll take this shot down here, and we'll do, there's one, I like that one right there. We'll take young kid running in snow. Okay, great. I now have all the clips in my project. Go back to the project. It's incredibly well edited. And because I want to export the XML of the project, go up to the File menu, go down to Export XML. And I'm going to do this Find Clips Marker. Except I can't remember what clips I used. I can't remember where those clips were. I didn't bring, now I'm so confused. So where do those clips go? Well, let's just find out. Let's open up a program called Marker. There it is, starts with an M. I knew it was there somewhere. We'll load the XML, so we'll click here, and we'll find Marker, XML, import. Now, what I wanted to do is, this is sandboxing. We got to say yes to this, so just say yes to this, say yes to that. I want to find all the clips that I'm using in the project. Every one of the clips is now highlighted in its own window in the Finder without you doing anything about it. I want to flag all of my used clips. I want to give them a label. So let's slide this switch over. I want to give all of my used clips a yellow label, click Used, and now in every window, every clip that I'm using has a yellow label on it. Well, except I want to find all the clips that I'm not using, and I want to give it a red label. So I change this to red, clip all the unused clips, so those are the ones that are available to me. How long would it take you to do that manually? This is amazing. I mean, now I can grab all the clips from wherever they are, drag them to wherever they need to be, make copies of them, get rid of the stuff I don't want. This is phenomenal. But wait, there's one more. This is really cool. I don't know about you, but if you've ever had to deliver a show to a network or a cable outlet and they want to know, give me a list of all of your music cues, give me a list of all of your B-roll footage. I need to know where the B-roll footage came from. I need to know what your transitions are, because we have a network standard that no transition can run 21.5 frames. I mean, they're berserk. So because we know the network people do not deal with reality as we know it, we've got to spend the better part of 2.5 years compiling a report that lists all the elements that are inside our wonderful movie. And by the time we're done putting the report together, I hate every shot that's inside it. What you need is a new best friend. And that's this application. It shipped last week. It's called the Producer's Best Friend. Let's go to the slide. It's published by Intelligent Assistants. If you see Philip or Greg wandering around, you should kneel at their feet. These guys are bright. Mac App Store, $99. It creates a detailed report listing all clips, effects, rolls, transitions, markers, keywords, and more contained in a single project, which is done so quickly you don't even need to use copy, paste, or EDLs. It creates a formatted .xls, which we all know is Excel, but it opens perfectly in numbers. It's fast, it's amazing, and it can save you days of work. Switch back, watch this. I'm going to open the XML file of Dr. Surf, the one that we exported earlier, the big project, 11 tracks of audio, all the B-roll, and we're going to say, as we look at this, I want to see all of my NASA stock footage, all of my Pond 5 stock footage, all my titles, all my interviews, all my dialogue, all my effects, all my transitions, all my markers. I just can't even read it. It just gets me too exhausted. I say, okay, do it. I double-click this. There is the XLS file. It was generated in less than half a second. I fire up numbers, and we'll just create a blank spreadsheet. Thank you very much. Go up to File, and because if I double-click it, it's going to ask for Excel. I haven't set the XLS to point to numbers. What am I doing? Oh, yes, we're going to open the XLS file. Right there. Click Open. My children, look at this. How much of your total project is NASA? 9%. How about Pond 5? 6%. How about music? 6.6%. You want to know what roles are being used, the category they're assigned to, the time code they start, the time code they end, the source time code out, its duration. We've got stock footage by NASA, stock footage by Pond 5. We've got our titles, the text, the key, where it goes, when it appears, the interviews, the dialogue, the effects. You can't get better than that. If you're asking yourself whether Final Cut Pro is ready for prime time use, you have to ask yourself, where does it fit in a whole ecosystem? What else generates this kind of report that saves you the better part of 3 lifetimes? What else shows you the changes between the primary storyline as you move clips around? What else automatically combines hundreds, not just a couple dozen, not just 1 or 2, but hundreds of clips? Automatically, instantaneously, through the power of XML. Nobody is going to use all these tools. Well, except our $100 million feature film being shot by a major studio, they're going to use every single one of them. But now as you start to look at this, you start to realize that it isn't just Final Cut. It's the ecosystem around Final Cut. And we've known about that for years. Every one of us has got special effects that we've purchased and transitions that we've purchased. That's the fun part. I don't talk about that. That's way too much fun to explore on your own. But this stuff, which can save you days and weeks and months of time, if you don't know it exists, how are you going to find out about it? There's no one perfect tool. Adobe makes great stuff. Avid makes great stuff. Autodesk makes great stuff. But the future is not standing still, and we can't stand still with it. We need to change. How soon you change is a personal decision that each one of you gets to make. But when you change, Final Cut 10 is there. Is Final Cut 10 ready for professional use? Only you can decide that. My name is Larry Jordan. Thank you very much.